Anyway, welcome. Glad you could all make it to the celebration of life for Dad and Faye. And thanks very much for those that came a long distance, family and friends. We much appreciate it that you're here. We're going to do this for about an hour, do some talking, some reminiscing, and we're going to have an open mic at the end, and then there'll be a potluck. So make sure everybody's done speaking before you start eating. If you're anything like me, I can't eat and listen at the same time. I just wanted to let everybody know it's kind of a secret. Dad and Faye were first cousins. They might not have been first cousins, but they were blood cousins. So, anyway, we're glad that they got together and had such a wonderful life and had me. Anything I'm missing out? This is Chuck.
Hello, my name's Chuck Tucker, and I was Faye's very favorite. Well, that's what she told me. We would all like to welcome you here, and we're going to proceed. Give it a roll there, Todd.
Our first speaker of the evening is going to be Roger Hammer. He's going to come and say a prayer and read an obituary, I think. Want that? Yeah. You want me to hold it? Okay. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Lord, in the name of Jesus, we just ask your blessing on this celebration of life for Tom and Faye. We just thank for everybody that joined us here, Lord, and we just ask that you'd be with their emotions, Lord. It's been a great time knowing the family, and just bless them all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thomas Harry Graves, a proud veteran of the United States Army, passed away on November 29th, 2023. Tom was a valiant fighter and an advocate for his health until the very end. The son of Emma and Josh Graves, Tom grew up in Winthrop, Washington. He was born on August 6, 1929, on the family ranch near Perigin Lake. Tom graduated from Winthrop High School as valedictorian and continued his education by attending Washington State University and Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, studying equine science. Tom had a passion for the outdoors and was a natural horseman and a ranch hand at the early age. Tom began breaking horses at the age of 14 and at the age of 16 worked as a local guide on a dude ranch. Tom was drafted into the United States Army and proudly served our country alongside his fellow soldiers in the 3rd Infantry Division. As a lifelong Manawha Valley resident, Tom loved the wilderness and the surrounding beauty of the valley. Tom was a horseman, wrangler, horse trader, guide, packer, smoke jumper, rancher, soldier, wildland firefighter, logger, trail builder, and owned several businesses in the valley, including the Winthrop Feed Store, contract fire engine owner and operator of the U.S. government fence building and snowplow business. Tom was an avid reader and preferred reading anything about history, horses, and baseball. Tom was an enthusiastic sports fan all his life. Quick-witted and extremely smart, he always had a saying about any subject, event, or activity. He loved interacting with all of his great friends and family. Tom served his community as an active member of the American Legion from the time he left the military service to the time of his death. Tom, Slug Davis, and Herb Gatewood are a few of the founders that started the Winthrop 49ers, and he was a part of the 49ers committee until he died. Tom was the founding member of the Washington Contract Firefighters from 1998 and a member until his death. Tom was one of the original 7 members of the Manawha Valley Horsemen that started the Manawha Valley Rodeos that are put on Memorial Day and Labor Day weekends. Tom was also a founding member of WOGA, Washington Outfitters and Guides Association, and a member of the NRA since its inception. Tom is survived by his spouse, Faye Graves, daughters Kathy Brown, Janice Tucker, sons Mark Graves, Todd Graves, and David Graves, and 9 grandchildren. Thank you for coming.
Hi everyone, I'm Faye's grandson, Kelly's son. With heavy hearts and cherished memories, we announce the peaceful passing of Crystal Faye Graves, who left this world on April 29th, 2024, at the age of 89 in Kennewick, Washington. Born to Clyde Scott and Jesse Benson on June 24th, 1934, in Carlton, Washington, Faye's life was one of unwavering devotion to her family and embodiment of compassion. Faye was the treasured matriarch of her family, revered for her remarkable ability to nurture and love unconditionally. Her gentle guidance and comforting presence will be profoundly missed by those who were fortunate to call her mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, and friend. Throughout her life, Faye supported her family and husband Bob's military career with dignity and strength, creating a loving home in every corner of the world. Her fondness for Hawaii was unmatched, and her memories there remain some of her most cherished. Faye moved back to the Methow Valley, where she had grown up, upon her marriage to Tom Graves in 1977. Faye served the Methow Valley with unwavering dedication and commitment by volunteering at the local senior center and numerous community events. She is survived by her loving children, Janice Tucker, Kathy Brown, Mark Graves, Todd Graves, and Dave Graves. Her siblings, Janice Ortman, Crystal Miller, Leanne Booth, Alan Accord, and Pete Scott, and her 11 grandchildren, 13 great-grandchildren, all of whom will continue to honor her legacy. Faye was preceded in passing by her first husband, Robert Brown, second husband, Tom Graves, and her sons, Robert Brown and Kelly Brown, siblings, Beverly and Jonathan Scott, and many aunts, cousins, and friends that passed before her. A graduate of Chelan High School in 1952, after attending Central Washington University, Faye dedicated her professional life to caring for others as a home health caregiver, a role she fulfilled with grace and empathy. Crystal Faye Graves will be remembered as a beacon of love and kindness. Her memory will be treasured and kept alive in the hearts of all that knew her. Thank you.
Well, I'm very pleased to announce that the band's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Buzz Brosey.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna have to. An old cowpoke went riding out one dark and windy day. Farmer Ridge arrested as they went along his way. All at once a mighty herd of red-eyed cows he saw, plowing through that ragged sky. Up a cloudy rock. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi. Ghost riders in the sky. Brands were still on fire, coats were made of steel. Horns were black and shiny, their hot breath you could feel. A bolt of fear went through his mind, he saw them thunder by. Saw those riders coming hard, heard them mournful cry. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi. Those riders in the sky. Faces gaunt, their eyes were clear, their shirts all soaked with sweat. Riding hard to catch that herd, but they ain't caught him yet. Have to ride forever on that range up in the sky. Horses snorting fire, had to ride on with them cry. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi. Those riders in the sky. Riders looked on by him and they heard one call his name. Wanna save your soul from hell riding on a range. Cowboy, change your ways today, oh, with a few ride. Try to catch that devil's herd. Frosties in the sky. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi.
Thank you, Buzz. Very good. You're almost as good of a musician as I am at a point. Tom Graves, Methow Valley legend, part of America's greatest generation, served our country in the Korean War with pride. He and his wife, Faisy, served this community with the same devotion. Tom wasn't just my brother-in-law, he was my friend, my brother, and from a different mother. Most everyone here has a special story or memory of Tom, and I will share mine. My wife, Janice, was in Kennewick comforting her sister, Faye, in this difficult time. I was at home when I received a call from Tom while he was in his nursing home, we'll call it. It was a short conversation. He said how bad the food was there, how bad he was being treated, and he told them if they didn't shape up, he was going to sue them. Then he said, George, don't forget, national finals start on Thursday. And I told him I had not forgotten and thanked him for reminding me. He then said his signature, "We'll see ya." My everlasting image of Tom is stated in a song called God Must Be a Cowboy at Heart. He made grass and trees and mountains and a horse to be a friend and trails to lead old cowboys home again. Go rest high on that mountain with pride, Tom Graves. We'll see ya. Thank you, Uncle George.
Thank you.
If we're ready, I put this PowerPoint together, and it's mostly about Dad, and then when I'm concluded with this PowerPoint, then Chuck is going to do some stuff with Faye. So don't be offended if I didn't include a lot of stuff in here about Faisy. We all love her, but I get my part and then Chuck gets his part. So next slide, please, Matt. So Dad was born in 29. Only 3 times he left the valley was to go to school, serve his country in the Army, and he had a job for a short time on the coast because there was not much work around here, so he went over there, and that's where I got hatched. I was born in Kirkland. My dad said I was pooped out on a rock and hatched by the sun. When asked by a Seattleite one time, the Seattleite said, "Why did you never move away from the Methow, Tom?" And he said, "Why would I ever want to move away?" Dad never saw or heard of any place better to live on this earth. So, born to Josh and Emma Yaki Graves on August 6th, same day my son was born. Dad was born right, not in this picture, but he was born to the left on Perchin Lake. His grandfather built the house and homesteaded there. Next slide. So this is the house when we got a picture of it finally. Much run down from where the state it was in, but this is the house was to the left of that barn on the left, and that's where Dad's dad was born, and that's where he was born. And that homestead was started by Charlie. And next slide. Dad helped the family and relatives work on the ranch, raising cattle, pigs, chicken, horses, haying all summer long, and feeding all winter long. Family would pull ice out of the lake most of the winter. Then they would store the ice in ground and put sawdust over it to sell it in the summer because they only had ice boxes then. They didn't have refrigerators yet. Josh and family would milk cows and sold cream and milk in town to make ends meet. Dad would ride his horse to and from school. It was uphill both ways. He had to go up over stud horse and back up over stud horse. One winter, they got dropped off by the bus. The bus was probably a sleigh pulled by oxen. But they got dropped off down on the Bear Creek Road and it was storming real hard. And they were walking back up to the house and Dad got tired and wanted to lay down in the storm. And his brother Bill kept hitting him and waking him up and dragging him home. Dad proclaimed that his brother saved his life because he didn't freeze. And you wouldn't have me here if he would have died. Go ahead. When Dad was 12 or 13, he would break other people's colts and horses that were a little older than colts, probably. He made about $25 a month. Pretty good money for back in the day. He did save up and buy his, got a loan from his dad to buy his first saddle and paid him back with the money he earned from breaking horses. Dad's mother, Graham, said that Dad was riding horses as soon as he got old enough to sit up. Dad always had dogs around, and some of the pictures you'll see a little later on. His first dog that he was very fond of was named Shep. And then we had a dog named Blackie. He ran away. Then he got Rascal, the first dingo. Brett remembers him because he bit Brett a couple times. Second Rascal was Bows. He was a really wonderful dog, and that was the last dog Dad got because he just couldn't get another dog because he loved Rascal so much. And Dad would always make sure when he was in the hills, they would always fold out his coat. So Bows had a dog bed to sleep on. I don't know how many fleas are in that thing. When Dad was in the 8th grade, ripe old age of 13 years old, he and his brother Bill were called to their first fire. They didn't start it. Summoned by Uncle Claude to come and help. They left the hayfields and rode horseback up on Blue Buck. And imagine a couple 13-year-olds. And his brother was probably 15. Claude had the hand tools, and they fought fire all weekend and rode back to the ranch Sunday night to go to school the next day. When asked what they ate when they were on the fire, Dad proclaims that they ate smoke for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're experienced firefighters now, and they heard that there was a fire up at Cub Creek, and they rode the school bus up there when they got out of school and joined Boyd Eifert fighting a fire up there. They worked a couple days through the weekend, and then they waited for the school bus down at the bottom of Cub Creek and rode that back to school on Monday. Dad's father, Josh, sometimes along with Dad and Bill, were commonly hired by the Forest Service to pack many equipment in and out of fires and supply the men with food into the wilderness. That was what probably not called the Passaic Men, they just called it the hills. Nobody knew the trails and pathways leading into the fires better than Josh and Dad. When Dad was 15, he spent a couple summer months taking dudes out on rides at the Spaith Ranch. When Dad was 16, he spent the entire summer working on the Spaith Ranch. 17, he spent all summer guiding dudes up there. A lot of you probably aren't aware of this, but when in the early 40s, Dad and Josh packed Major Gregory Happy Boynton into the hills up at the head of Carson Creek. He wasn't a major then, but he was going to be later. Him and his dad went on a hunting trip up there, and Pappy Boynton, which he was later affectionately called by his crewmates, he wasn't a sailor. He joined the ADF Flying Tigers, and then he became a Army flyer for a while, and then in the Marines, he led a group squadron called the Black Sheep. He was responsible for 26 enemy aircraft shot down, maybe more. He won the Medal of Honor. He was sort of like Dad. He cussed a lot, he drank a lot, and he made sure everybody around him knew it. Dad always said that he's glad he taught that kid how to shoot so he could become a good aviator and pilot. serving his country. Dad completed all grades of schooling at the Winthrop School. He graduated in 47. He was valedictorian. There was 8 people in his graduating class. I think 7 of those were his relatives. Ready? Do you concur? He did not miss a single day of school from 8th grade until he graduated. He played baseball and basketball. Those are the only 2 sports offered. He worked for the Wagners in the summer of 47. And that's right around when he graduated. That's formerly the Yawkey Ranch. That's where Aunt Clara and Graham grew up, and their brother Fred and Claude. Now today it's called the K. Wagner Ranch, if you're familiar with that. Excuse me. In the fall of 47, Dad went off to college at Washington State College. Now it's called a university. He studied farming and agriculture. That Thanksgiving, Dad and his cousins, who also attended at the same time, decided to hitchhike home and made their way back in a snowstorm for Thanksgiving. In the spring of 48, at the age of 19, Dad began packing for the Forest Service. If this year sounds familiar, it is. That's the worst flood in recorded history since the white man's got up into this valley. And 48, known as the 48 flood. Dad and others were working up the Chewak River drainage and started making their way to Winthrop as the streams were raging. Not all the bridges were washed out, so they had to ford those creeks, multiples, to get down. The bridge at Winthrop that you took to get here was still standing. They've replaced it since, but they were able to get across that bridge because the river was raging. And that was the only bridge, one of the only bridges that stood the 48 flood. Dad attended horseshoe school at Cal Poly, 49 and 50. He always said, if the shoe fits, nail it. We've seen Dad tie up 3 legs on a horse because most of the time the ones he was shoeing were ornerier than heck. And he knew all the knots and ties and everything to tie up a horse's leg in order to get shoes on him. Next, please. In 49, under the base manager, Francis Lufkin, Dad became a smoke jumper, and he jumped in 49, 50, and 53. Jumped out of the Ford tri-motor aircraft. Very early days of smoke jumping. We kid Dad that he was smoke jumping before they had airplanes. Dad took a couple of years off for smoke jumping for this. Dad spent 20 years in the U.S. Army in 1951 and 52. He said those 2 years felt like 20 years. He took basic training in South Carolina. He was trained in tanks. He was assigned to the 3rd Division, 15th Infantry Regiment. He always still remembered his dog tag number all the way up till he died. This reported at the end of basic, he told his supervisors he was a smoke jumper and he wanted to be a paratrooper. And they said, Private Graves, you want to be a paratrooper, huh? Sir, yes, sir. Boom! Infantry, Korea. Dad bravely faced the enemy in combat in the Korean War. He served his country with honor and pride. One other quick note. When Dad made his way over there, left San Diego, landed in Tokyo, got off the boat, was given some leave, and was walking down the streets of Tokyo on leave, and he ran into Evan Fink from the Manhao Valley in the middle of Tokyo. What are you doing here? Oh, I don't know, I'm on a vacation. So they conversed and hugged and all that stuff. And I'll probably get it wrong, Dede, if you're here. But Evan said, Tom, what are you doing? What's your training? Dad said, I'm in tanks. And Evan said, you do not want to be in tanks. They're blowing tanks up left and right out here. If there's anything else you can do, pick it. So Dad got back and they got divided up into squads and whatever. And the squad leader said, who here can run a radio? Dad said, I can run a radio. He said, I picked that because I talked on a telephone once. And he was a radio operator the rest of the war. That same year, Dad started smoke jumping in 49, going backwards a little bit here. 13 smoke jumpers were killed at Man Gulch in Montana in a terrible burnover. That first year Dad was jumping, and I asked Dad, when you heard about those smoke jumpers getting killed in Montana, did you think about quitting? He said, hell yes, but I needed the money. Dad smoke jumped one more year in 53 after he got back from the Army. It was definitely in his blood. And so were horses, packing, and spending summers in the Pacific. He was also starting to figure out jumping out of a perfectly good airplane didn't make any sense. Maybe there would be a different job he could do for the Forest Service. So he did become the Forest Service packer, and he packed out at 8 Mile. There was a couple houses up there where that barns are, but those are long gone. Dad packed for the Forest Service from 54 to 56. In the fall, Dad would pack for Jack Wilson out of Mazama in early winters, but they didn't do too much packing for the Forest Service in the winter. In 58 and 59, Dad worked full-time for Wilson. In the winters, Dad started working down at the Wagner Mill. Dad got hitched to Gene Pierce and had us 4 kids. Ages don't really matter. All you need to know is that Dad did his best to raise us as a single parent. Around 59, Dad moved the family to the coast and milked cows and worked selling cars, believe it or not. That's where Kathy and Mark came on over there. And I was born in Kirkland, and Kathy and Mark got hit by a car. And they lived. Other than the Army, that's about the only time Dad ever moved out of that area. He hated it and moved back to Winthrop as soon as he could. Josh, Dad passed away in 61 after a battle with cancer. It was a huge blow to the family, and Graham had to sell the ranch out at Perigin. Josh had been Farmer of the Year, was an amazing man according to a nearby farmer rancher named Bill Lester. He told me that Josh Graves was an amazing man. Josh was well liked and respected by everybody he knew. Well, out of the tragedy of Emma losing Josh and Bill Lester losing his wife Juanita, lo and behold, Emma and Bill ended up hitching up, and Dad gained some very nice stepbrothers and sisters. John Lester had become a smoke jumper after all, so these Lesters couldn't be all that bad. Plus, they were all really good hunters, and so Dad liked that too. We're all blessed to have the Lesters as our relatives. And John and Carol have an airplane that looks like that, I think, unless it burned up. In 62, Dad packed a survey crew up into the area where the North Cascades Highway is now. It's just a trail then. Dad knew these trails well because he'd been packing hunters up there for Wilson for years. Dad says that the highway would have been put in exactly the wrong spot had he not shared a bottle of Mad Dog with those surveyors. Anybody in here not know what Mad Dog is? Apparently it helps you think. In the winter of 64, Dad worked at the mill in Twist in the summer, and he did trail maintenance job for the Forest Service in the summer. Winter, mill, summer, Forest Service. Dad now had his own packing outfit, and he'd pack hunters in the fall and take people on pleasure trips in the summer. Mark, Todd, and David, amongst others, had the distinct pleasure of helping clean and build trail. Joy be the day. Burnt pancakes for breakfast, spam sandwiches for lunch, grain steak with world-famous hash browns for dinner, burned on both sides and raw in the middle. In 68, Dad began building and maintaining fence for the game department, and he joint ventured with his future father-in-law, Clyde Ole Scott, and they had been friends for a long time. Dad looked up to Ole because he was a heck of a good rodeoer and a heck of a good man, and lifelong mentor to Dad. And we did a lot of family get-togethers, and Dad and Ole did thinning jobs, and Dave almost drowned one time when we went out on a swimming trip. Mark saved Dave. Damn it. Anyway, Dad continued to contract trail cleaning and continued to serve up those world famous hash browns. Dad got into timber falling. He was a faller, worked for Mac Lloyd, Lloyd Hughes, and Billy Flagg. And basically anybody that needed trees dropped, Dad would drop them. Extremely hard, dangerous work, not L&I stuff like there is today. Safety standards were not what they are now. Not that they're that much better, but Dad would often go to work with stitches in both legs from saws cutting through his pants. If there's anybody out there that was half as tough as Dad, they'd be twice as tough as you are. And around probably 75 or 6, what would you guess, Jenna? 76? Dad and Faye started dating. They'd known each other, but as luck would have it, they started dating and they got married in Christmas Eve, 1977. Faye had 3 amazing kids, Rob, Spider Brown, and Spider had worked for Dad on trails, Kelly, and Janet. It was meant to be. Faye's dad was one of Tom's best friends. Spider had worked for Dad, and the Mohawk Valley needed Faye back. Faye and all her family have made our lives complete and happy. Numerous kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids are all loved by us. Dad got into contract firefighting with me in 1988. Faye helped out with dispatching and recruiting and everything she could do, so we built a pretty big business. We now have 6 engines. Dad was always happy to tell the government folk how to do their job right. When he'd go out on fires, he'd try to make friends by asking all the Forest Service people if they wanted to go have a cocktail. Back in those days, there wasn't a lot of other contractors, only a few, but it's grown to be a pretty big thing now. Dad fought fire all the way up through 2001. His last fires were Libby Creek and the 30-mile fatality fire up here in the Mohawk Valley. Dad helped with the business all the way up until he passed. Dad also began a snow plowing business in '97. He had probably 100 snow plows and usually had 5 that worked. He had a large client base up and down the valley, mostly in the upper valley. He absolutely refused to buy anything newer than an '82 Ford because it had a straight front axle. He continued to do trail work in the wilderness all the way up into his 80s with Ray, Butch, and other people. He has quite a resume. Other things other than what Roger has mentioned: horseshoer, valedictorian, rancher, smoke jumper, army soldier, horsebreaker, rodeoer, pickup man, logger, mill worker, packer, wilderness trail builder and cleaner, firefighter since he was 12, fence builder, snowplower, fire truck builder, the list goes on and on. Other achievements: Korean War veteran, member of the Legion, Memorial Day Honor Guard, been in 49er Day Parade since inception, 49er Committee, lifelong member of WOGA, original member of the Valley Rodeo Association, planned organized every rodeo since its inception. Pickup man at 2 rodeos a year, all years until he was 80 years old in 2009. Several of his fellow pickup men are in here. Thank you, gentlemen. And he was rode John Henry scouting and went down in the mud, and John Henry used him to get out of the mud. Possibly Dad's most favorite thing in the world, maybe second to his family and friends, is being on the back of a horse in the hills. He knows every mountain name, trail, where that trail was, where it is, name of every creek, every tree, every rock, every cabin, where was the cabin, who built the cabin, who built the trail, where there was a lookout, and where a horse died or got hung up or swam a lake with its packs in. Maybe you can see why. He loved this place so much. He also had a talent for naming horses. Here's some names of some of his horses that we could mention. Yeah, Some of them aren't suitable for children. Platterfoot, because she had feet as big as a platter, and she became a good bucking horse too for Red, I believe. Two Swaps, self-explanatory. Had to trade 2 horses for that horse. 2 Spot, because it had 2 white spots on its withers. Paddler, because that horse swam Black Lake across the lake with hacks on. Don't know how it lived. Hell Yes and Hell No, both sorrel with white faces. Rough and Ready, both mules. Rough kicked and Ready because he was sorrel. Buck, not because she was buckskin. Barbed Wire, Hornet, Flirt, Bullet because he walked slow. Tatoosh, Whoa Bitch, and then his saddle horses were Chico, Wrecker, Jake, and John Henry. He has a great ability to nickname people. Here's some of the ones we could mention in mixed crowds. Sore Guts and Puss Guts were 2 different people. Hose Nose and the Screecher were actually married. Big Runny and Little Runny were a couple of guys that were sick all the time and their nose ran. Geronimo, Monk, Canute, Fencer, Bally, Cochise, Ingamore, Tight Cinch, So Dumb, Dirty Neck, High Stump, and the list goes on and on. Get ready, because here's some of the Tomisms. He always had Tomisms. He had and these are the ones that I can say. There's many more that I can't. That guy is crazier than a peach orchard boar. Apparently, peach orchard boars eat a lot of peaches, and they're fermenting and they get drunk. If that guy knew half as much as he thinks he knows, he'd know twice as much as he does. Attaboy, girl. You'd be over there tying up a pack or something and trying to lift it up on a horse instead of him helping. Attaboy, girl. It's colder than a well digger's rear end out here. Ain't that smart? My God, that guy's a liar. He'd rather climb a 100-foot pole and tell a lie rather than stand on the ground and tell the truth. There's more there than there is. It's further than it is. And he stole those from Donnie Ellsworth. I'll bet you a dime against a dog turd that ain't gonna work. I'll bet you another cocktail that you just made a bad bet. You weren't born, you were pooped out on a rock and hatched by the sun. I already said that. How didn't poop. Goddamn horse, pull back one more time and you'll be dog poop on somebody's lawn in Czechoslovakia. That's because they used to send horse meat over there for them to eat. Get on that damn horse before you fall off. Shall we stop and have just one wee small cocktail, Raymond? Honest, Daisy, we only stopped to get free matches and toothpicks. Ain't that a pious idea? Get down off your high horse and give me a hand. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Dog bite my appendage. Even if that guy had 2 assholes, he still wouldn't amount to a pile of poop. What the hell are you going to do with that? Get out of my way before you hurt yourself. I don't like the taste of that, and I'm not sure I like the people that do. That guy ain't smart enough to pour urine out of a boot. Tom's favorite food is rib steak. His favorite color is red. His second favorite color is blood red. Favorite teams were Seahawks and Washington State Cougars. Favorite flower is the tiger lily and the sunflower. His favorite dessert was Fazy's apple pie. His favorite chair is his saddle. Goodbye, Dad. You could be known as a cantankerous old fart, but you'd give the shirt off your back to any friend or family in need. And that house has lost a large piece of itself. Thank you.
Don't let the old man in. I won't live this alone. Can't leave it up to him. He's knocking on my door. I knew all of my life that someday it would end. Get up and go outside. Don't let the old man.
Third from the left.
Many months I have lived. My body's withered and worn. Ask yourself, how would you be if you didn't know the day you were born? Try to love on your wife and stay close to your friends. Toast each sundown with wine. Don't let the old man in. Many months I have lived. My body's withered and worn. Ask yourself, how would you be if you didn't know the day you were born? When he rides up on his horse and you feel that cold bitter wind, look out your window and smile. Don't let the old man in. Look out your window and smile. Don't let the old man in.
There's a few cowboys that would like to come up and talk about Dad a little before we move into talking about Faisy. And the first one up is Greg Port. Greg, raise your hand if you're not here. Okay, Raymond. Come on up. Ray Campbell. Gold Creek legend. Good man and a real good friend to Dad and the family. Even though he's a Campbell.
Well, I can't remember the year I met Tom Graves there, but we've been friends for, seemed like forever. We packed back from Pasayton and Sawtooth and clean trails, you name it there, we've done it there. Down to Hermiston to the horse sale. Every time we had a horse sale in the spring and fall, we had to go to the Hermiston horse sale, and Tom generally bought a horse. I don't remember ever selling one down there, but he sure bought a few there. And he always, it was always a good time. We'd start down the road and pretty soon reach behind the seat and pull out a bottle of whiskey and have some 7-Up there and tip a couple of them on the way down the road there and back. He did like to have a wee little one once in a while. we worked the rodeo together. He got me involved in the rodeo association, and through the years, we had a lot of fun. It was good there. I remember I believe I rode with him as pickup man for a while there. I'm still a pickup man there, but he was one of the best pickup mans we had there. Him and Donnie Dagnan. Through the years there, Tom never had any quit to him. Even as he was getting sick there and in the hospital there was no quit to him. He was determined that he was going to get through it and live another day. So I spent a lot of time with Tom in the hospital there, down at Chelan and up in Omak there. I remember when he was in the hospital up there in Omak, and probably at Chelan too, I remember him saying that he called Faye every day, or she'd call. He talked every day. So, and right up to the end there, he was determined, right up to the last couple of weeks there, that he was going to be out. They were going to be together again. So, he's going to be missed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coleman. Dennis, are you ready? Dennis Gardner, longtime friend of the family. My sister was married to his brother, rest his soul. And his father was one of my dad's best friends. Now, we got a long, close relationship with the Gardner family, and we got lots of stories. Oh, whoops, here he is.
Here I am. Yeah, Tom, my first little confrontation with him, I don't say really a confrontation, but when I was about 12 years old, I was in the 49er parade, and I was the end of the parade. I had a box around me, and we found some horsehair and put it on the back, and wore a big old cowboy hat. Anyway, the parade used to start down in Heckendorn, and we'd go through town and up to by the old county shop, back down to Heckendorn. So this time, most in those years, the pack strings were in the back. So we get down to Heckendorn, and Tom said, "What are you doing, Dennis?" And I said, "Well, I'm sitting here waiting for my mom to come pick me up." And my folks had Texaco Station here in Winthrop, and they were busy 49er weekend. So I waited, and Tom said, "Well, why don't you watch my string and my horse? I gotta go uptown and see a guy about a horse." I said, "Oh." So anyway, I waited. About 3 hours later, my mom come pick me up. "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm waiting here for Tom. He had to go uptown and see a guy about a horse." She says, "You know what they're doing up there?" And I said, "Well, I kind of figured I knew what they're doing. They're up there drinking." So anyway, that was my deal. And Tom says, "Well, I'll tell you what, you watch these horses and the mules and I'll buy you a milkshake." So every time I saw Tom, I says, "How about that 50 cents? And he goes, "I'm a little short today." It took me about a month, but I did get my milkshake. You know, and another thing, you know, when Tom got the pearly gates and probably it was old Kenny DeSeth, or who knows, maybe it could have been Sandy. They saw him come through. Of course, Tom, he had to go through orientation, and they were just about that short of not letting him in to being the kind of guy, because he'd probably give him a little hard time. Anyway, they come in, and finally somebody comes back, and probably were my dad and Jim Abel and all the old cowboys that had passed before him, and says, "Tom, how did you live this long?" And here we are, but we're together again. And by God, now Tom's with his good friends. Thank you, guys.
Lunk, are you here, Lunk? That's Eric Baki. Well, come on up, brother. You got a word? Can't do it? Okay. Claude? We'll have an open mic a little later then.
I got things.
Well, come on, Don. Talk into this.
Well, I don't know if you guys knew it, but Tom had a nickname too. He gave everybody else a nickname, so we gave him one.
Tell everybody who you are.
It was back, well, we was trying to fight some forest fires, and I just got out of the mountains and doing trail jobs. And I told the Forest Service that I had my pack string still shot if they needed a pack string on the fire. So I go home, and about 7 o'clock that night, they called me up and they said, "We need your pack string on the fire." So I said, okay. So I saddled up and headed back to Winthrop. And Tom Graves was supposed to show me the trail up to the fire. So we got up to the 8 Mile, and he met me there and led me up on top of, I think it was 8 Mile Ridge, and turned me loose. And so then he said, "We'll just follow the sheep drive on into the fire." Well, the only time I was in the sheep drive was when I crossed it. But I finally got in there and got the guys their water and sandwiches. And Tom, he went back to catch his horses so he could be ready the next day. Well, he caught his horses, then they gave him some packs to take into Black Lake, someplace back behind Black Lake. And in the meantime, of course, he didn't have time to shoe his horses, so they, going around Black Lake, they pulled back because their feet got sore, and one of them jumped into the lake, swam across the lake, and then he came back and got back out on the trail where Tom was. So I asked him, I said, "Well, how was the sandwiches and stuff?" "Well," he said, "I took the bread and threw it away, but I took them in the meat that was still in the sandwiches. He gave him the bologna in." So he thought that was probably pretty good. Of course, they'd been in there for 2 or 3 days without any lunches or anything. So in the meantime, then on that fire, they put Tom and I both on the same fire to pack groceries and water and stuff. And I decided, well, we might as well split up this, the packs, so both of us can work. And if I did it all myself, well, there wouldn't be nothing for both of us. So I started cutting the packs in half. And so Tom, he nicknamed me Light Pack. So then I nicknamed him Bear Step because his horses was barefooted, and that's the reason he jumped in the lake and swam the lake. But probably not too many people ever heard him called Bear Step, but that was the origination of that story anyway. And Todd had some names of the horses up there on the screen, and 2 of them was Hell Yes and Hell No. Well, Tom and I was drinking in the Antlers Tavern one night, and he said, "I need some horses." And I said, "Well, I got a couple, I'll sell you." Well, he said, "We'll just go double or nothing." And I said, "Okay, get the dice." So we shook the dice and I won. He had to pay twice as much for the horses as what he figured on. But anyway, that was the only time we ever got ahead of him, I think, on anything. I guess that's about the only stories I can think of.
Thanks, Don Bagman, everybody.
Campfire, coffee from a tin cup in my hand.
That's rough.
It sure warms the fingers when it's cold. Playing an old guitar, a friend I understand. It sure smooth the wrinkles in my soul. Sleeping in the moonlight, a blanket for a bed. It leaves a peaceful feeling in my mind. Waking up in the morning with an eagle overhead makes me long to fly away before my time. I think God must be a cowboy at heart. He made wide open spaces from the start. He made grass and trees and mountains and a horse to be a friend. And trails to lead old cowboys home again. The nightlife in big cities is alright for a while. It sure make you feel good when you're there. But the country's so pretty, it goes on and on for miles. Takes away my troubles and my care. And I think God must be a cowboy at heart. 'Cause he made wide open spaces from the start. He made grass and trees and mountains and a horse to be a friend. And trails to lead old cowboys home again. And trails to lead old cowboys home again.
Very good. Before I give up the microphone to Chuck, I just want to say a super big thank you to Chuck and Janice and Summer and her girls, Matt, Libby, and Emmy, for all the stuff they did for Faye and the family. Thank you. And there's another special lady included in on that too, the mother of Miss USA. We love you. And thank you to everybody who helped set up and get this all ready and put everything together. Very, very amazing job. And Randy, thank you. Sir Chuck. Big hand today.
Well, first of all, I am Faye's favorite son-in-law. Janice, her daughter, my lovely bride. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, Faye passed away on April 29th, having chronic leukemia for 19 years. You know, most people may not know that she had leukemia because they never complained about anything. After her mild stroke in June of 23, her leukemia, it moved aggressively. After attempting chemotherapy, her body just rejected it. So she made the decision to stop that and transfer to hospice services. Her care was under hospice of the Tri-Cities. And I want you to know that the nurses, aides, social workers, and everyone that helped her took excellent, excellent care of her. She never missed an opportunity to talk with all of these people. And you know, Faye, she wanted to know what the children's names were, to see pictures of them all. And then, you know, again, Faye, she always wanted to say that each one of those caretakers needed to also take better care of themselves. We're going to be showing a video in just a moment here, but I want you to know first that most of the pictures you're going to see are of Faye and her loved ones. And she never wanted her own picture taken, so there's not that many of them, but we do cherish the ones that we have.
I've raised my head and set myself in the eye of a storm, in the belly of a whale. My spirit stood on solid ground. I'll be at peace when they lay me down.
When I was a child, I cried until my needs were satisfied. My needs have grown up pound for pound. I'll be at peace when they lay me down. When they lay me down someday, my soul will rise to fly away. This old world will turn around. I'll be at peace when they lay me down. This life isn't fair, it seems. It's filled with tears and broken dreams. There are no tears where I am bound. And I'll be at peace when they lay me down. When they lay me down someday, my soul will rise and fly away. This old world will turn around. I'll be at peace when they lay me down. When they lay me down someday, my soul will rise and fly away. This old world will turn around. I'll be at peace when they lay me down. When I was a child, I cried.
I want you to know that Faye was just not the matriarch of and the life of our family. She was the soul that connected us all together. Her ever-present smile, a beacon of warmth that invited us to share our joys and our sorrows with her at all times. Oh, the secrets she had. And she would never tell anybody what was said to her. She possessed the uncanny ability to understand and empathize with the emotions of others and make every person she encountered feel valued and heard. Family meant everything to Faye, particularly after the passing of both of her sons. She always and never missed a chance to spend time with her family, and holiday traditions will be passed on for future generations to come because of her. You know, in certain situations, we think about things when we have questions, and we say, what would Jesus do? Well, in our particular family with Faye, we would always just ask, what would Faye do? Then we would have our answer. She had the ability to gracefully and tenderly persuade you, unless you were Sue or Janice in their obnoxious high school days. Then she became a director. Now, the two stories they could tell. As military families do, they move every 1 to 2 years. And during the children's childhood, and all the way through high school, they always made the house feel like home. She volunteered in so many ways, enriching the lives of everywhere she went. You know, in those young days, she was always taking care of others at that time also. There were so many other people in the military that they didn't know. They were young mothers, young Army wives. They didn't know what to be. But Faye took them right underneath her wing as a surrogate mother and helped them also to teach them. Faye was always teaching others. We may not always know it, but she was always teaching us something with grace. Not to mention that she took on the duties of, she was a room mother, Cub Scout, campfire girl leader, and she was also the PTO president. Our houses were always open to all of her friends and family, and no one was a stranger. Faye's impact reached far beyond the immediate family. The involvement with the community was so important to her. She was always giving back. She touched countless people everywhere she went. In the valley, she spent years going from house to house, quietly spreading wellness and care and love as she worked in home health. After retiring, she kept on helping others, spreading cheer at the senior center and to show support for this community. Now, like all the other Scott women, Faye was an excellent cook. Now, she never really used a recipe, and I never saw that lady ever use a timer, but it came out perfect. I'm telling you, perfect every time. And she was famous for her pies. Oh my goodness, they were absolutely unbelievable. And if you were lucky enough to have one of the famous Scott family cookbooks, you'll know that all the Scott family has this cooking talent, and it has been passed on to the younger generations. Okay, now on the lighter side. Those that knew her well knew that Faye did not care for dogs. Dogs were something that was outside, and in the severe weather temperatures, they were out on the back porch only. When Faye came to come live with us, we had a golden retriever named Daisy. Daisy was bound and determined to get Faye to like her. She was just as tenacious as Faye was. Daisy would lay outside Faye's bedroom door until she woke up every morning. And then when Faye came out of her room, she would always spin in circles trying to get her attention. Faye was a little concerned about Daisy because of her size, but she was a gentle giant. Now, the reason that Daisy spun around in circles is she just wanted to show Faye how cute she was. Now, again, in continuation with dogs and her unfamiliarity with dogs, Faye really didn't know how to show affection to a dog or pet a dog. Now, Faye started to want to touch Daisy and pet her, but she honestly didn't know how. So she would take her hand above Daisy's head and pat up and down on it like that, trying to show affection. Now that was humorous. After a couple of months of this, Daisy proved herself to her, and she became a loyal companion. She stayed at Mom's side by her chair most of the time. Now, Daisy was also concerned about her not being able to get enough to eat sometimes, because sometimes she would eat, sometimes she wasn't hungry. So about 5:15 every night, she'd look it up at Faye, then she'd come to Janice and I and let us know it was time for Faye. And when Faye got her evening meal, she would sit right there and watch her eat to make sure that she was getting something to help her out. Okay, sadly, Daisy crossed the Rainbow Bridge. On January 30th. And we're positive that Daisy went there to provide to be an angel to meet Faye when Faye passed. And we know when that happened, Daisy was there. She was spinning in circles, saying, "I'm here." Faye's passing was similar to her life, and it was very graceful. It was an honor and an invaluable experience to have been by her side, along with her family. All through her final days and nights. You see, Faye was a second mom to me, as she was to a lot of you. We weren't sure if Faye was ready to go, but because she was a fighter with incredible tenacity. These traits were traits that she had all of her life. It made her what and who she was. Yet at the final moments, peace and tranquility came over her. It was breathtaking. It was beautiful. She was a beautiful, glorious as an angel. She smiled and transitioned out of this world into the next, seamlessly. By the look on her face, we know that she was greeted by Tom, her sons Rob and Kelly. I'm sure that Jesse and Clyde, her parents, and Beverly and Jonathan were all there to meet her also. along with Daisy and all of her other loved ones. I thank you, Mom, and that's what I called her, for all the beautiful memories and for the wisdom that you shared with us. Also for the recipes that you shared, and I got a lot of them. And for the unconditional love that you showed and showered upon us. You were not just our mom, grandmother, great-grandmother, aunt, and cousin. You were our friend and our mentor and our greatest supporter. You will live forever in our hearts. Natalie? Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up with clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dream that you did to, oh why can't I? Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like a lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dream that you dare to, why, oh why can't I? By this past video, you all must know by now that Hawaii was probably one of her very favorite places when she lived there previously with her family and our many, many visits to the islands. Faye, you'll be dearly missed. And at this particular time, Kyle, you had something you wanted to say?
All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Kyle. I was Faye's grandson. She called me Kylie. I never really understood why. I think it's a form of dialect for angry grandmother, because she's always yelling at me, my brother, and my dad, right? So Kyle, Kelly, Casey is just Kylie. Right? So I just wanted a chance to say some things. My grandma Faye was a woman of remarkable strength, unwavering resilience, and infinite kindness. Her stories were our family's history, her experiences our heritage, and her legacy was our treasure. My grandma Faye was the keeper of our family stories, and let me tell you what, we had a lot of them, good and bad. Many of these stories are the ones that we've all come to know and love about our family, our history, and the history that her and Tom have carved throughout the valley. I remember as children, my brother Casey and I would get the opportunity to spend a couple weeks a year at our grandma's house during summer. And I may not have realized it at the time, but those were some of the best times of my life growing up. I had the opportunity to just kind of step back and like live a simpler life, and I will never forget those times that I had with my grandma. My grandma was a woman of many different roles and played as a mentor to many throughout her life. I would remember just being out and about in Winthrop or Twisp and talking to the people that lived here, and anytime I brought up her name, I mean, it was like an instant change in conversation, right? The tone changed, and like I felt that I was part of the club now, right? Because everyone knew my grandma and they all loved her, and they just took me in and under their wing, and that's something that was a good feeling, right? I'll never forget that. My grandma was an extremely strong woman. They don't quite make them like her anymore. From her childhood to the children she raised and all the different experiences that she went through during her life, it molded her into one of, if not the strongest woman I've ever known. I had the chance to go down to Louisiana this week for work, and I couldn't help but think about the time that she had to raise a family down there living in Fort Polk. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Fort Polk, but there's not a lot there. It is the swamp in Louisiana, and it's very, very secluded from everything else. And she raised a family there through the civil rights movement, through the Vietnam War. Her husband was constantly gone. And yeah, like I said, it's just the things that molded her to be one of the strongest women I've ever known. Not many were able to juggle the type of life that she had, let alone raise a family. My grandma could, and she did. This is one of the multiple life experiences that made her the woman that she turned out to be. As we bid farewell to my grandma Faye today, we're not just mourning her absence, but celebrating her life, her legacy, and her impact. We're celebrating a woman who was a vital thread in our family tapestry, a cherished note in our family sympathy, and a vibrant color in our family portrait. Grandma, your physical presence it may be absent, but your spirit lives on. Your stories continue to connect us. Your memories continue to comfort us. Your love continues to unite us. Rest in peace, dear Grandma. We love you, and you will always be remembered. You'll always be missed. And you'll always be cherished. Your spirit, your love, and your legacy will forever shine on in our hearts. Thank you. So I'm just going to open it up. If anyone wants to come up and say anything about Faye, I'm going to bring her to you.
Thank you for all being here to share the lives of some beautiful people. First of all, I want you to all know that we have been truly blessed. I am kind of like, I want to say I'm the son of a different mother. And I have never in my life shared happiness as well as sorrows with a family that I feel like I'm supposed to, even some of my own family. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Chuck, Jan, the whole family, the girls. We should all be blessed at some time in our lives to just be a part of someone or some family that is so close to your heart, you die for them. Faye, Chuck, Jan, all of you, you're those people. And we should all be as fortunate to be able to have that experience in life, because some people don't. So I'm not going to end this I'm going to end it with a funny story, but I promise. I don't like to end things with sad notes. But those of us that were blessed to be a part of faith, I always call them on from the get-go. And that started with the conversation of Faith saying, "Who the hell are you?" And then I proceeded to tell her I was. I know I wasn't, but I consider myself to be almost as good as Kelly and Josh. So, anyway, she was a mother and a grandmother to all of us. We should also all have that wonderful note in our lives. And it's not many of us, but I was blessed to be blessed by this family. And my wife, my kids, my son had muscular dystrophy, and she dearly loved him. He could do no wrong, ever. He could burn the house down. It's okay, it's just fine. So that, to me, that's probably the biggest thing I'll always remember the rest of my life. That to be blessed by someone like this, because believe it or not, there's a lot of good people in this room, but it gets hard to get better than they. That's just the way I feel about things. So I will miss her terribly. My parents are both gone, but knowing that they're in such a nice place and nothing can ever go wrong there, ever again. I'll never be sick again. I'll always be happy. Know that they're looking down on all of us every day, every minute, even when we're sound asleep. Okay? So keep that in your heart always. Okay, I got to stop. I'm going to be bawling here in a minute. So I have to tell a funny story. Being a part of the Tucker family, the one thing you had to accept and believe in was that they were going to move probably 8-10 times in their lifetime. And guess who was always the first one there to start moving things around? Okay? So when they moved into the beautiful, Chuck and Jen moved, and the girl moved into the house on Houston, which is a gorgeous one. And we're unloading trucks, Chuck and I, in the sun, and the girls, the leader of the pack, was putting stuff away. Now, I know you all know Jan. Who is the biggest collector of Tupperware in our eyes? She's it. There's nobody. There is just nobody. So I have boxes. And I keep carrying boxes into the kitchen. Okay, pops up. God damn it, Larry. If that is a box of Tupperware, I'm going to hit you over the head with it. I turned around because that's what it was. And this is probably the third or fourth box. So anyway, that's probably the best thing I remember about her, other than she was always there for all of us, good or bad. Okay? I think that's just part of being a mother and a grandma. We should all be blessed with people like that. So I promise to make this short, because if I keep going, it's going to get bad. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for Chuck and Jan. Thank you for having us in your lives. And Kathy, my daughter, my wife Sherry. Brian is my son. Passed away in '98 with muscular dystrophy, but I'll tell you what, he's with Faye. He loved her. He just loved her to death. And so, thank you all, and just remember the good times. Always remember the good times. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. You and your family have been a dear friend of ours forever. At this particular time, I don't know if anybody wants to say something.
I am.
Or not. Okay, here we go.
Hello, Winthropian. I am Sandor by the name, and I done some rodeo photography for 20 plus years in the Metal Valley. I was a kind of official photographer for the Pro West Rodeo Association. And in memory of Tom Graves, because he brought me in back years ago, I moved back to the valley sometime 22, 23 years ago. I'm a resident here since 1970, when I was up in Alaska for many years. And I would like to pass my work, my negatives and digital files, free of charge to anybody who wants to take over and look for how did you rodeo, how did you perform back in those years. I'm gladly to hand it over, as I say, and carry on the history, because I am at the end of the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Got another gentleman coming forward here.
I'll try to make this short. I grew up here in the valley. Don't remember most of you anymore. But Faye was one of those people that just took you under her wing. I met Faye. She went to school with my older brother. The first time I met her was in Fort Polk, Louisiana. I was 19 years old, newly married, and my mother sent me a dress to go to their house and see them. Crazy times with a kid out of the valley. I went to the house. Bob answered the door, and I looked him right in the eye, and I said, "I don't know you, but I know your wife." That was a family joke for many years. My son was born in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Faye became his godmother. And if it wouldn't have been for Faye and Bob, he may have went hungry the last 2 or 3 days of the month. We didn't get much money. But they took us under her wing, their wing, both of them, with a heart of gold, and made living at Fort Polk, Louisiana, worthwhile. I can only say, and I want to stress this more than anything I can, that when my mom and dad, in their senior years, needed help, she would go to their house up the Twist River. And the one thing that was the most valuable of all wasn't the medical part. Faye was old school. She sat down and visited with them. Mom and Dad could never pay that bill. That's what Faye was to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's a very heartwarming, touching story, and obviously this gentleman was a recipient of Faye's kindness as she was teaching others down in Louisiana. Now I'd like to turn this over to Randy, and I want you to know, Randy did all this, all the decorations. She's a phenomenal woman, and she's an artist the way she does everything here. Randy?
I'm a newcomer to Nettow Valley. Been here 27 years. Grew up in Okanagan, came back home. And in my life, there's only one person that I could truly call a friend. Now and afterwards. And when the song about the rainbow, if any of you ever in your life are so blessed to have someone like Faye Graves in your life, you think it's over when she's gone, but when you meet her family, all of them, they carry that same love and that ferociousness. And the decorations that you look at here, Faye gave specific directions about how they were to be done. And so for at least 6 months, we talked about what she wanted for Tom here. She wanted Nettow Valley. She wanted Western. She wanted all of those things to pay tribute to Tom. But I'm talking now to the women in this group. She did 2 of the things that are hardest thing ever to do for women, actually 3. 1, marry someone in the service. and have them pay tribute to this country. And 2, marry a farmer or a cowboy. Yeah, she did that. And with her grace, she not only took on her own kids, and at one point in time with $50 in her purse and a suitcase and had no idea where she was going. But Faye Graves always in her whole life pulled up her big girl panties and went on and did whatever she needed to do. And every single friend of hers knows that. And I'm telling all the women here that you support your families. And if any of you ever doubt that you can do it, look at the end of the rainbow, because Faye will be cheering you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to say something at this time? Well, I think that we have some lovely people in the kitchen preparing us something to have an afternoon meal. And please join us in that. Todd, did you have something you wanted to say?
You look like you got something to say.
Just a final thing we've said it several times, thank you all for being here. We just can't express our heartfelt thanks enough. Many of you drove from a long ways away, some came from close, but thank you for coming. As we age and get older in our lives, it's hard to keep going to these things, but we really appreciate you coming and being friends of Dad and Faye and family. That's from the bottom of all of our family's heart. We appreciate it. It wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you. You know, there is one more thing that I wanted to say. In the latter conversations that Faye and I had, and this is a hard one, I thanked Faye. I thanked Faye because she knew what was happening in her life. And her life, as we know it on this earth, was coming to a very short close. And what we talked about was, at that particular time, she was teaching us how to die. And that's a very important thing. She did it with grace. And she was more concerned about everybody else instead of herself. And still, today, I know in my heart that that meant most to her because she was always teaching. Thank you, everyone. One of the last things she told me before I left her the last time, she said, when you get up there and talk, Todd, don't you effing cuss. So guess what? It's time to effing eat. Haha, gotcha, Faye.